After a while, Jeremy arrived. However, it was not because Madeline wanted to see him. Instead, he had come to criticize her violently. The light in the meeting room was dim. Nonetheless, it was enough for Madeline to see the malice and sinisterness on the man's face. Madeline was firm. "I didn't push Meredith. She fell by herself on purpose. Jeremy, please believe me." Upon hearing her words, Jeremy stretched out his hand. His cold hand grabbed the back of her neck tightly, and he pushed her toward him. His bottomless, black eyes were like cold daggers as he shot out a glare and said, "Not only is there evidence, but there are eyewitnesses. Yet, you still have the cheek to say it wasn't your doing?" "I did not. Meredith framed me. I didn't push her. I didn't." Madeline was having an emotional breakdown. She kept on emphasizing the truth in hopes that the man would believe her. However, Jeremy's eyes only became more and more terrifying. His hand on the back of her neck tightened in grip. "Mer risked her life and the child in her stomach to frame you? Madeline, don't you think your theory is pathetic?" Madeline endured the pain and looked into Jeremy's eyes. He looked as if he was disgusted by her. "The child in her stomach is not." "Shut up." Before Madeline could finish, she was rudely interrupted by Jeremy. Jeremy was flushed with anger as he pushed Madeline away. Madeline was in handcuffs and could not support herself. So, she fell to the ground and a debilitating pain shot up her stomach. Her face was now white, but she gritted her teeth and struggled to lift her head. "Jeremy, I did not. I really didn't push her." The man towered over her, his cold, dark eyes fixed on her. "Explain your bullshit in prison." "Madeline, listen here. If anything happens to Mer and her child, I'll bury you along with them." His cold words hammered down on her before he left mercilessly. Cold sweat drenched Madeline's forehead as she crawled toward the direction Jeremy was walking away in. She called out for help in despair. "Jeremy, my stomach hurts." However, the man did not stop. He simply walked away. The officer closed the iron door of the meeting room and brought Madeline back to the lockup. That night, Madeline suffered immense pain in her stomach. She told the officer about her pregnancy, but she did not get any help. On the other hand, she was assaulted by her cellmates for no reason. Madeline protected her stomach and let the punches land on her body. The leader of the gang yanked Madeline's hair and smirked as she forcefully slapped her. "Mr. Whitman told us to take good care of you, you little b*tch. Who asked you to bully his beloved woman?" The blood in Madeline's body turned cold. This was the care Jeremy had given her. She could not even begin to imagine Jeremy's cruelness. She was pregnant, yet he kept on treating her with violence. Nonetheless, he had asked her to abort the child. How could he care? In his heart, it would be best if she died. The next day, Madeline told the officer about how she had been beaten up the night prior. However, the other party merely looked at her dumbfoundedly. "What nonsense are you spewing? How could we not know about such things?" Madeline knew it would be useless to complain. No one could afford to cross Jeremy in Glendale. Her heart was cold, and she was in despair as she looked at the dark cage. Through her vision that had been blurred by tears, she saw the scenes in her memory. "Jeremy, you said you'd protect me forever." Madeline thought that she would not have a chance to get out. However, 2 days later, the cops said the plaintiff had dropped the lawsuit against her, and she was released. Nevertheless, the plaintiff still reserved the right to look into this. After exiting the lockup, she saw that the sky was gray, it was drizzling. Dragging her tired and battered body, Madeline was about to leave when she saw Daniel in front of her. She was curious. "Dan, why are you here?" Daniel smiled at her gently and opened the car door. "I'm here for you." Madeline was hesitant as she had not showered for 2 days. She was dirty and even smelled. She did not want to dirty Daniel's car. "Get in, Maddie. I'll send you home." Daniel could see Madeline's concern, but he did not mind. The rain started to pour even more. When they arrived at the villa, Madeline thanked him. Just as she was about to get out, Madeline heard Daniel's voice. "Is Jeremy horrible to you?" Madeline turned her face away. "No. He's great to me. Thank you, Dan. I'll be going now." She got out of the car in a panic and went straight into the heavy rain. Almost instantly, Madeline was drenched. When she was about to enter the house, the door opened. Next, Jeremy's elegant and poised figure appeared in front of her. When Madeline remembered her battered self, she did not know what to do. Every woman would want to present their best selves to the man they loved. However, whenever she was with him, she would be in her worst and most torn-up state. At this moment, she was even covered in the scars he had given her. "Who allowed you to come in?" Jeremy stopped outside the door. Madeline looked at him. "This is my home." "Your home?" The man chuckled lowly. "Do you think you have the right to call this your home?" The light in Madeline's eyes faded. Jeremy's words stabbed her heart like glass shards. "If Mur weren't so kind, you would still be rotting in prison." Jeremy's words were laced with love for Meredith. Madeline scoffed. "Yeah, if it weren't not for, I wouldn't have ended up in such a place." It was obvious that Jeremy was enraged by what she had said. "You're still trying to talk back at a time like this?" "Jeremy, I did not. I'm telling the truth." Madeline clenched her fists and emphasized her words with her head high. Nonetheless, the man's handsome face was covered by a layer of frost. He lifted his icy glare and peered at Madeline. "No, huh? All right, get over there and kneel. I'll believe you if you kneel until the rain stops." Madeline was stunned, and she subconsciously touched her stomach. "Don't you want me to believe you? Why are you still standing here?" Jeremy said in a cold voice. Madeline stood in the rain as she lifted her tearful eyes at the man who used to care about her so much in her memories. "Jeremy, Jeremy, I'm hungry." Before Madeline could finish talking, Meredith's girly voice was heard from inside the house. So, Meredith was here. An indescribable pain started to spread all over her body. Madeline's heart sank. It was as if it was sinking in a bottomless abyss. Jeremy peered at Madeline impatiently. "Meredith will spend the night here. If you want to enter this house, you'll have to kneel until I'm happy." After he said that, he slammed the door and turned around mercilessly. The cold rain fell onto Madeline's body. Consequently, the temperature of her heart plummeted along with the temperature of her body. The sky became dark, and Madeline saw that the lights were turned on in the master bedroom. Two shadows were casted on the curtain, and they were such a sore sight. "Jeremy, will you really believe me? At the end of the day, I still won't be able to compare to Meredith's breath when next to you in bed." After that night, still in a drowsy state, Madeline was met with Meredith's smirk. "Madeline, I didn't think you'd kneel for the entire night just to get Jeremy's attention." Meredith was speaking with a lot of energy. It seemed like the child in her stomach was fortunate to still be fine despite her having rolled down the stairs. "If you like to kneel, continue kneeling." She cackled heinously before turning around. Madeline's mouth was dry. She was unwell, so she did not have the energy to argue with Meredith. After having stayed in the same position for an entire night, Madeline's limbs were extremely numb. She got up and struggled to enter the house. However, before she could walk any further, Jeremy appeared in front of her. Madeline was so tired that her knees were bent. She reached out her hand and grabbed Jeremy's collar. Her pale lips pleaded, "Jeremy, please believe me. I really didn't push Meredith." Jeremy scoffed. "Why should I believe such a vile and heartless woman like you?" After he said that, he pushed Madeline away. Madeline's head was in immense pain as she sprawled on the floor. She was in so much pain that she could not get up. She clutched her stomach, and cold sweat started to form on her forehead. When she thought about the child in her stomach, Madeline used all her might to grab Jeremy's pants. "Jeremy, my stomach hurts. Please take me to the hospital." However, Jeremy only peered at her in disgust. "Madeline, you're so good at acting." "No, Jeremy, I'm not. Jeremy, I'm in a lot of pain." Madeline moved her lips lightly. She could feel herself drifting in and out of consciousness. She held onto his pants. "Even if you hate me or resent me, the child in my stomach is yours." "HMPH. Jeremy scoffed. There was ridicule in his eyes. "Child? Madeline, you really can make anything up. Get lost." Jeremy kicked away her hand that was holding his pants. Upon being kicked away, Madeline laughed lamentably. She lifted her head to look at the frigid man in front of her. Tears fell down from her eyes as she felt an excruciating pain in her heart. 12 years ago, a boy said to me, "Linny, I'll protect and cherish you forever. I won't let you get hurt." So I guess those were all lies. Throughout the past 12 years, it was all a pathetic obsession. "You're not my Jez anymore." "What?" Jeremy's heart skipped a beat. The perfect and untouched intimate memory that he had always kept in his heart reappeared without warning. He had met a girl named Linny at the beach that year. That girl was naive and innocent. She was cute and mischievous. He had almost fallen in love with her at first sight. In those beautiful memories, that girl would always follow him and call him Jez sweetly. He had promised her that he would stay with her forever and take her as his wife. After he found out that the girl's name was Meredith, Jeremy made up his mind to be good to the girl named Meredith forever. He would punish those who hurt her severely. However, why was Madeline suddenly telling him about the promise he had made when he was young? Jeremy felt as if something was going to leap out of his chest. He bent down and grabbed Madeline's shoulders with his hands. "What did you say?" Jeremy was fearful. He felt like there was a hidden thorn in his heart stabbing him mercilessly. He picked up Madeline without any hesitation. When Meredith saw this from one side, she stepped forward to stop him. "Jeremy, where are you taking Maddie?" However, Jeremy ignored her and sped to the hospital while holding Madeline. Throughout the way, his brain was occupied with the moment he first met the girl when he was young. That moment was delicate yet quiet and contented. It kept on replaying in his brain. Jeremy's heart was beating frantically. He somehow forgot that he was supposed to be in disdain of Madeline and carried her to the frantically. She had said she was pregnant and it was his. However, his body was now stained with her blood. Jeremy felt as if he was being suffocated by something invisible. This was the first time he hoped that Madeline would be okay. He paced back and forth as he waited outside. He felt extremely anxious. At this moment, a nurse walked out. Jeremy stopped her and asked, "What's happening? What's wrong with my wife?" The nurse looked at Jeremy. There was resentment in her tone as she said, "You're really something else as her husband. She's pregnant, and she was still running around in the rain. Not to mention, she's covered in wounds all over. She has a cold and is bleeding from her genitals. It's up to God whether the child will be saved." Jeremy felt like he could not breathe. The suffocating feeling made his mind go blank. There was only one thing on his mind. It was for Madeline to be saved no matter what. After a long time, the door to the operating room opened. Jeremy rushed to the bed and found Madeline unconscious. Seeing her colorless face, Jeremy felt a pang in his heart. He could not help himself from holding Madeline's cold hand as his eyes displayed a solemn gaze. "Madeline, tell me, why did you call me Jez? Why do you know about my promise with Linny when I was young?" Madeline was brought to the VIP room where she slept drowsily. She vaguely felt someone holding her hand as the warmth slowly seeped into her skin. Her body did not feel so cold anymore. When Madeline woke up, it was already the next day. While trying to move, she noticed that someone was holding her hand tightly. She widened her eyes in dumbfoundedness and saw Jeremy leaning against the bed. His hand was holding hers tightly. It felt so warm. Madeline looked at what was happening with a dazed look on her face. She felt as if she were dreaming. Jeremy opened his eyes the moment he felt movement. When he saw Madeline looking at him stupidly, he touched her forehead. She had had a fever the night before, but it seemed like it had gone away. Madeline was in disbelief at Jeremy's gentle gestures. "Jeremy," she called out to him. Her voice was hoarse, and her throat hurt. "Don't talk. Let me fetch you a glass of warm water." "Jeremy," Madeline's eyes turned red, and she felt like all of her wounds had been healed. Jeremy helped her up and fed her some water. He did not ask her about what had happened when they were kids upon seeing her in such a weak state. Madeline leaned against Jeremy's chest. At this moment, his gentleness felt so surreal. "Jeremy, when did you have the baby? Why didn't you tell me?" His tone was gentle. He had never talked to her like this before. Madeline was stunned as she held the glass of water. She remembered telling him clearly. When Jeremy saw that Madeline was in a state of daze, he did not say anything more. "You should rest now. Just tell me when you're better." He then carefully helped her lie down. Madeline was tearful. She was a little joyous too. Had he remembered their promise because she had called him Jez before falling unconscious? Or was he now feeling remorseful because she almost had a miscarriage? No matter what the reason was, Madeline was happy. At the very least, Jeremy would look at her now. Jeremy wanted to stay with Madeline a little longer. However, he ended up leaving after seeing that he had a few phone calls from his company. When he was about to near the lift, he heard Meredith's voice from the other end of the corridor. "Doctor, is that true?" Meredith sounded astonished. "Please don't tell Maddie's husband about this."